Welcome to the Kinetic Life Podcast, brought to you by Kinetic Renew.
This podcast is dedicated to helping you find your way to your dreams, your goals, and your success. We'll be fueling that with key information on topics like health, science, tech, and lifestyle, coated with a few laughs along the way. In this episode, electric flying taxis coming to an airport near you. Obesity. Don't blame me, blame the food. Injected nanoparticles that burn away your body fat. A smart Band-Aid that heals the wound for you. Plus a few helpful tips and tricks to help you on your journey. And now we begin. Here's Michael Chalavutis and Dr. Mark Hertzberg.
Hello and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Kinetic Life Podcast. I am your favorite host, Mark Hertzberg. I'm losing my mind.
You might self-identify as Mark Hertzberg, but that doesn't make you Mark Hertzberg.
You got to keep that in.
Lucky 13 is cursed from the beginning. Yay! Want to try again, Mike? Come on, you can do it.
No, what if I identify as Mark Hertzberg today?
What if you identify as Clark Kent and jump off a building?
That might not end well. I don't feel like Superman today. I am your host, Mike Chalavutis. I might be losing my mind as well, but that remains to be seen. We'll get tested tomorrow.
Okay, does anyone remember from 100 years ago the game show To Tell the Truth? Will the real Mark Hertzberg please stand up? That would be me.
They can't see us, Mark. They're just listening.
Well, that's also why, my ventriloquism act doesn't go over well on the radio-style podcast. But you got to realize I'm not moving my lips when Mike talks.
It's amazing how well he does it.
I'm getting better and better. Mike, drink some water, and I'm going to continue.
The Kinetic Life Podcast is sponsored by Kinetic Renew. Kinetic Renew is a 4-ounce shot of all-natural ingredients that deliver some amazing benefits, like improved mental clarity, long and short-term focus, and improved memory and cognition. Plus, Kinetic Renew improves mood with the added benefits of anti-stress and anti-anxiety. Here's what people are saying.
I drink a bottle of Kinetic Renew, and I'm in a better mood. It's like waking up on the right side of the bed. It's great.
My mental focus is clearly better.
I do notice that I have better clarity. Definitely improves my mood for sure. It reduces my stress.
Visit kineticlife.com today. Log on now and use promo code POD1 for 30% off. That's 30% off your order when you use promo code POD1. Kineticlife.com. KINETIQ life.com. Do it now. You're going to love Kinetic Renew.
Okay, well, now that I have my head screwed on correctly, let's get things started. Mark, you want to give us a little update on where we stand with
We don't stand.
Where we
fly. We hover.
Where we're going, we won't need roads.
That is correct. Just a little patch of land to land on, and we're good. So now it's time to bring forth how lifestyles will change as eVTOLs really become part of our lives. And we have a little tidbit of news update here about advancement in the eVTOL category. Now, for those who don't know offhand, eVTOL, which we did mention 1 or 2 podcasts ago, is, as best I can figure out, E is electric, V vertical, takeoff and landing, which means
That's
these
correct.
are things that are going to be at consumer possible prices, either to rent or use as a taxi or an Uber type service, and eventually maybe own. Things that you can get in, and kind of like all of those electric drones that can fly and hover,
But
this
much
one
bigger.
can carry you.
So they're putting together a test, I believe, for New York City. I don't know if it said. Did it say a year on it, Mark?
It was talking about having this ready for next year.
Oh wow! But I mean, they were talking. You're flying it yourself. It's a single manned device, and you
These things don't mainly fly themselves, and even if you get, they're talking about if it goes above a certain height, you need some form of pilot's license. If it's restricted to under a certain height and restricted to certain specific paths in the city, you don't, but even with that, the machine does most of the work.
Yeah, I mean, they make you do a little tutorial, with, I guess, a VR headset. And then after like a 15-minute tutorial, you're good to go. Get behind the seat and fly yourself around. But I believe it takes off and lands on its own, and you kind of have limited control once you're in the air.
And probably if they're still, I guess, working on permissions and a lot of things and right-of-ways. But this thing, and probably initially, they'll do things like they have these areas that you do it for fun or like park or something. But it will eventually come where you use it for certain commuter routes. As we talked about in the, before, how some of the airlines are financing companies that are going to use these as taxis in areas where it takes more time to get to the airport than the flight. And they can land on very small patches, and of course there are a lot of places that were built for helicopters that they decided were just not. The helicopters too dangerous, too many things happen, too noisy. That these things can make use of also.
Yeah, and I believe they were very energy efficient too. At least the ones that they were. Well, it's electric, but even they're not as heavy as, say, some of the other ones. A little bit more efficient. They're quieter. But I guess this is what their intention is for the future. But what happens when there's traffic in the designated pathway of your eVTOL?
Oh, we're getting into the Jetsons, where he gets into a flying car and it is bumper to bumper. But one other thing, like this particular one in this article has 18 fans, each with its own engine.
Ooh.
So, and they're electric, but it also means if one goes, it's not like you have one engine on a plane and you better hope you can glide it to a landing.
There's a lot of fail-safes.
There are a lot of fail-safes.
I guess they have to make it that way, especially if you're a pretty much untrained pilot. You got to make sure there's a lot of backups. But it's the way of the future. Maybe I could get to Manhattan in less than 5 hours soon enough with one of these.
And hey, maybe I'll keep it in a double garage next to my Lucid Air, where in an earlier broadcast a few broadcasts ago, we discussed their charging station. Well, how long will it take a charger that can charge 80 miles onto a car in an hour to charge up my flying machine?
Yeah, well, 80 miles on your eVTOL, the straight line is... You can go a good distance compared to driving around the roads.
And that's one thing. The early ones, you'll talk how much range, because you can't have a big, heavy battery in something lifting like this. So it won't have much of a range, and that's part of the point, that you're not going to take this to go from New York to Boston. You might take it to go to the airport to go to Boston.
Yeah, also, you're not putting a ton of luggage in. You're not taking this to Costco and load it up on supplies and heading home.
Unless you...
Are going just to get the 36
you
pack
get
of
it to
Dunkaroos?
Costco, you load the stuff onto it instead of you and tell it to take it home.
No, you just go the priorities. Like you get, I don't know, like you said, the brownie mix, a 36 pack of Dunkaroos, and I don't know, maybe we'll get something of
you're loading
healthy.
up on sugar. For Mr. Gym Rat, your mind is all about the sweet stuff.
We can change our lives. We can do, have, and be exactly what we wish. Identify your problems, but give your power and energy to solutions. Your past does not equal your future. The path to success is to take massive, determined action. Tony Robbins. Leaders spend 5% of their time on the problem and 95% of their time on the solution. Get over it. Crush it. Author unknown.
Don't blame me, Mark. Blame the food.
The food didn't eat itself, Mike.
Well, apparently, based on a new study, they're saying that the reason for obesity, one of the many, I guess, factors of the obesity epidemic, is that it's the fault of processed foods that they're low in protein. And that's why everyone's getting fat because the processed foods that we all eat and love are low in protein. And studies have shown that having a higher protein breakfast and a higher protein diet helps satiate you.
Well, maybe we should get into the details of what they mean by the protein is at fault. So it's
a lack thereof protein.
It's a lot like when they made low-tar, low-nicotine cigarettes, people didn't get less tar and nicotine. They had to smoke more cigarettes to get the same amount of tar and nicotine. So what this was saying, and number one, they never made a real connection to the... basically, they just like starting out with their prejudice against processed foods and never really made a connection. There are a lot of foods that are low protein. Some of the things they put you on diet, these are they're all low protein. What they're saying is we need a certain amount of protein, and we are programmed to get the protein we need. And therefore, a lot of our appetite is determined by we're going to keep eating till we get enough protein. And the assumption is you'll get enough sugar, you'll get enough carbs, you'll get enough everything else on the way. And therefore, when you have a low protein thing, you got to eat more to hit the protein number. And it doesn't care that you'll have extra of other things, you're just going to keep eating. So any food that's too low protein, they're going to say you'll keep eating until you get the same amount of protein, not the same amount of food. They just happen to state their prejudice against processed foods at the top.
Assuming that you're eating processed foods, most of them are lower in protein. And you
right, but they could have named fast foods. They could have named a lot of health foods.
Oh, yeah. No, that's luckily, obviously stating the prejudice against processed foods. And processed foods have other negative components to them, but their argument is that having a lot of the foods that we commonly eat are low, or that commonly eat that are processed are low in protein, and that your body is craving more protein, and that taking in protein directly will, provide your body with what it needs, leading to you feeling full. That's what they mentioned about having a higher protein breakfast and you're being more satisfied for a longer period of time for your.
Okay, so I think we can change our little intro of don't blame me, blame the food to don't specifically blame the processed food. Blame the title maker for trying to make it seem like it's processed foods and not anything with low protein.
Mark, as a millennial, I can't accept blame for anything. It's always someone else's fault.
Well, as someone who's not a millennial, but has for a long time told everyone that the happiest people are the people who have achieved the most important thing, and I even wrote a song about it. Don't you want somebody to blame? Don't you need somebody to blame? Don't you have somebody to blame? You ought to find somebody to blame. Oh, yeah. So, now that we have put the blame squarely on anything but you, what else do you have to say about diet food and things like that?
Well, apparently they found that those who have had larger doses of antibiotics, which we know large doses of antibiotics are not specific to whatever you're fighting there. All bacteria, including the good gut bacteria.
He's talking broad spectrum.
Yes, broad spectrum. So those who had broad spectrum antibiotics and decimated their own biome seem to crave sweets afterwards.
Also, some people who've had food poisoning.
Oh, that's new to me, but it makes sense.
Sometimes the food poisoning, it decimates your mouth biome so you can't enunciate properly. But no, sometimes it can destroy the whole biome. And
food poisoning. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, lead to fun things.
It cleans it out.
But yeah, but anything that decimates, and I hate, people use the word decimate because when you're talking you're getting rid of 90-something% of it, the word decimate means get rid of 10%.
Yeah.
So it's not that bad.
Eradicated?
Eradicate, or nearly eradicate.
A clean slate of your gut caused by overconsumption of a broad spectrum antibiotics.
Now, can I point out how they once again missed an obvious explanation because they're going for the blame that, because you have an unbalanced and not good enough biome.
Yep.
Its influence on your diet goes haywire and you eat sweets. if anything were destroyed, if your community were destroyed, what do you need? Do you need the resources and energy to rebuild? So if your gut biome is decimated or reverse decimated, only leave a tenth, what does it need? Energy, the resources to rebuild, to repopulate its community. It's going to tell you, eat sweets. Get me energy, get me sugar.
Yeah, but you would think in an attempt...
And just eat more.
Yeah, because, I mean, I guess you don't crave probiotics, but you would want to, I think, crave, like, fibers and fats, which are, to help your gut,
Also,
not just straight pure energy.
Also remember, what happens when you do this to that biome? Because one thing is with people, when you do have food poisoning, now, a lot of the times for weeks after, you have a diuretic situation. And the reason is you're flushing everything straight through, because until you rebuild the biome, you can't digest a whole bunch of what's going through you. So you actually lose weight because you can eat and you can't. So you need this biome to repopulate so you can get all the other nutrients. But obviously it would appear that maybe the easiest thing for these bacteria and stuff to start with is for them to process before they can start processing everything else and help you get it, is the simple sugars. Remember, how do you get cavities? You get too much sugars building up in the mouth, and the certain bacteria wildly overpopulate, and they secrete acids. So sugar seems to be a big deal. It's almost like sugar is the bacteria, the biome's charging station for their EVs.
Yeah, I mean, bacteria use sugar, but there are also other, fibrous products that do wonders in feeding the bacteria in your gut. But
they probably need everything like we do, proteins and everything else. But in this state, they probably target.
Oh, of course, but that's like going for the quick fix. Fecal transplant to the rescue. Clean slate, replace. And that's why I'm thinking, call me crazy, next fad diet, you clean out your gut antibiotics, you let everything slide through till you get to the right weight.
You clean out your gut with antibiotics.
Nothing holds, and then you go for the fecal transplant once you lost the right amount of weight. Wiping out your gut biome, terribly unhealthy.
Well, I could say for someone who hasn't missed a day of anything in about 100 years, but I did once
consume a bad piece of fish?
Well, not fish, but something. You can't point it down, especially if you don't eat it and throw up. And me, just like Jerry Seinfeld, we do not throw up. It's never got nauseous, but got, so it could have been something in the last couple days when it finally started reacting. But I had a day where you're going, don't go more than 3 feet from the toilet. And I went to work, and I was real lucky that it wound up being a very empty day at work. And in that particular location, my office was 3 feet from the bathroom.
Oh, jeez.
Because that's where I was all day. But it wiped out my biome, basically.
You cleansed.
And I lost... just from the incident, you lose X amount right away. But for the next month, I ate whatever I want, and I just lost weight. So I said, you know what? If it doesn't kill you, it's a great diet. But I have a theory of what it was, but I wouldn't insult the place where I had it since I can't prove it could have been anything within a couple-day period.
Oh, no, it's not something you ate. You got one of those detox teas off TikTok looking for a little cleanse. And that's how, you saw those girls on TikTok selling detox teas. That could be you.
There was no TikTok in 1997.
You were ahead of your time with the detox teas.
Well, I might have been viewing it in my TARDIS on a screen, but we are not allowed to talk about that. I just want you to know, you seem to have this thing against things that have a high fat content. I am not prejudiced against the things that have a high fat content. I myself have a high fat content.
Start where you are, use what you have, Do what you can. Arthur Ashe. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Aristotle. Knowledge is power. The more one knows, the more one will be able to control events. Author unknown. Whatever you're looking to accomplish, you gotta start somewhere. Start preparing. It's not gonna magically happen overnight, unless you pick 6 numbers. Michael Shalavudis.
So, let's talk though about the fat targeting to the win, because I have this spider sense that you are actually talking about something specific to do the targeting.
Yeah, I believe they developed a specific nanoparticle. Correct,
Yes.
Mark? It was they gave it some crazy name that I do not remember off the top of my head. PS9. No, PlayStation 9.
No. Well, they did. They were talking about electrical charges. So, basically, they were talking about different types of fat deposits in the body, because you have brown fat that burns energy and keeps you warm and blah, blah, blah. And what they're saying is people who get past a certain weight and are eating more and more, and here's another prejudice coming up, their fat that might be able to burn energy turns more and more into the type of fat that just stores energy. And once you have some of this, it starts demanding you eat more. Feed me. Like Little Shop of Horrors plant, feed me. And you just get fatter and fatter. And they're labeling it bad fat, shouldn't label, and unhealthy fat, and saying it's a bad thing.
Yellow
and they
fat.
found out there's a difference in negatively and positively charged ion channels in the matrix. I think the intracellular matrix that supports this stuff. And by using nanoparticles to reverse charges, you can coerce the fat that stores energy to become the fat that burns energy.
So turning it from yellow fat to, I guess, brown or beige fat, which, people know brown fat on babies.
Don't it turn my brown eyes blue? Or something like that.
And the reason it's brown, they have more mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of cells. So the whole idea is turning it into the beige, or what they're calling your current turning yellow fat to a fat cell that has more mitochondria to burn. But they're using, as you said, these particles. Actually, they're positively charged nanomaterial called PAMAM. PAMAM 3.
I'm a PA, ma'am. It's like a PI, but a little different.
Or P-G3 for short is what they're calling it. But yes, they're using...
I work for the PA-3 department, ma'am.
They're using these, it would be these positively charged nanoparticles to spot injected to areas of visceral fat. And in an attempt to change, convert these from yellow to beige, but they really weren't talking about that. But essentially, that's
brown.
what they're doing. Or brown. I'm not sure if we get that far going from to brown, but they're changing the type of fat to start burning it as a source of energy.
Okay, so evolutionarily, what these people who label the storage fat as bad or unhealthy, they've missed the entire evolutionary reality. Now, we can play this as a game show, and you can try to figure out why, and I'll say you're wrong no matter what. Or we can just go straight to the answer.
Let's go to the game show.
Okay. Why are they wrong? And this is actually a very good thing from an evolutionary standpoint, that you start building up the fat to store stuff.
So why are they wrong? You think of evolutionary from fat storage as a storage of energy for times of famine.
Do you want a
hint? Or if you're a
hint?
camel, you need it for water and energy.
Think not camel. Think hibernating bear.
Okay, so it'd be essentially whether it's a time of famine or lack of movement, just for getting energy. You got to break it down for.
You very
heat.
rarely have enough food to really start storing. So when you have enough food to start storing, the fat does the right thing and say, let's store it. This won't last long, but we'll store as much energy as we can.
Keep eating more.
Right. And then when you get to the point when you stop getting this extra stuff to store, if you can't find enough to survive, you can start burning it. Now, initially, you want to burn it slowly, so you're not necessarily going to turn that fat into energy-wasting fat. But if it gets really cold and you're not hibernating, then you do want to start burning it faster to keep yourself warm. So you would want the fat to reconvert back to the energy-burning fat. So it's a perfectly reasonable cycle in the wild. This is healthy fat in its way. It's doing the right thing at the right time. You just put it in an unreal situation where it's just got unlimited food supply. And you're abusing a well-balanced, beautifully orchestrated system.
Well, it took thousands of years to evolve the way we did, and then in a short span of time, millions.
These systems probably go back
way
long before humans, maybe before.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
At least as far as any thermoregulating ancestors thereof.
So a very long time, and I guess we haven't evolved.
And even in a cruder form, it may go back before that.
Oh, yeah. And in most situations, even for not even that far back, food wasn't nearly as abundant as it is in most developed countries. There was no Costco 1,000 years ago. Not that I know of, at least.
I think Sam's Club was the first one
Sam's Club
about
started.
that. I believe, actually, when they were building the pyramids, when they ran out of material, there was a Sam's Club at the Sphinx.
I thought it was a Walmart.
Now we're going to have an archaeological debate.
No, from an evolutionary standpoint, it makes sense. They don't obviously bring that into the discussion, but in the article. But it does make sense. The issues we have now are because how we were, evolved over time to survive in situations where we didn't have the abundance of resources.
If you want to be successful, find someone who has achieved the result you want and copy what they do, and you'll achieve the same results. Author unknown. Most people fail in life because they major in minor things. Author unknown. The quality of your life is the quality of your relationships. Author unknown.
I have another question for you, Mr. Mike.
Hopefully I have an answer for you, Mr. Mark.
Have we about filled our time, or do we need to bandage a little stuff together to fill out the rest?
That's a great question.
Do you have a great answer?
I would say a smart answer.
Okay, we need something smart here.
What about a smart bandage?
It's about time. I've already had a smart toilet, a smart car, a smart phone.
Yeah, we haven't adjusted, I don't use the word Band-Aid because it's a brand, but, I guess wound care, we haven't upgraded yet.
Okay, so we now have a smart way to deal with the wounds?
We do, and this was specifically put together for those who are diabetic or have cuts on areas that have trouble. Don't heal nearly as well because of blood flow and the circulation to that area. Or those with diabetic, it's a circulation plays a big issue. So this bandage.
Well, just for all others listening, I think it's most important to develop this to start with that, but it will help everybody.
Oh yeah, even healthy individuals, areas of the body where it's not the most, not as much blood flow, which makes it harder to heal.
Even if you're healing well, a smart bandage might be able to make things better. So, continue, please. Don't let me interrupt constantly.
So, this smart bandage actually has the ability to sense heat. right? Is it based off heat sensors
and electric
Well, it uses electric. I thought it uses electric to increase
impedance.
Not
impotence, impedance. How much it resists electric flow.
Okay.
And it's, I believe, if temperature, you want temperature going down and impedance going up, it shows you healing. If the impedance is going down, that shows a lack of healing, and if the temperature's going up, that shows swelling, inflammation.
Yeah, inflammation or infection.
Okay, so if it's going the wrong way, this bandage will use electric field, shock something, to stimulate the growth and to attract the cells that have to move in to do the healing. So it monitors when it's needed and kind of like, mush cells, get into that thing. But they say in the future they'll be able to put a lot more sensors for different things in it so it can sense even more and do a better job. And it will also collect information on what's going on. So using that information, they can learn more about the healing process and things that work against it to produce even better treatments in the future.
Yeah, and I mean, these advanced versions of from where they are now would be something you probably see at a hospital or a severe wound clinic. But I think what their current version is something that maybe with modern development will be cheaper and, be able to be mass produced for, say, the individual where, maybe 20, 30 plus years from now, this type of, wound, I guess, what I'm thinking of the word for, just an acceleration, wound.
You could also probably link to your smartphone and maybe even call your doctor's office and say, this wound is getting infected. Things are getting
not
bad.
even just that, but I mean, the fact that it has the ability to increase the rate of healing. It'd be something where maybe you're picking up at CVS a pack of these for your kids. So instead of it taking 2-3 days to heal over, it does it overnight, let's say. Or
right, and you also know right away if there's a problem with it. Do you have to go to the doctor? Is it going okay? You'll know much. Oh, also to check the level of the wound healing, even if you are seeing the doctor, they don't have to remove the bandages often, which is interrupting everything, and then rebandage. The bandage will tell them what's going on. So it's
ripping it off and looking, okay, need it.
Now, you're talking about for diabetics, for these hospitals, for that. The most important thing is these should be available to me, because we know that Mel Brooks said the definition of comedy and tragedy is you're in a wound clinic because you don't heal. That's comedy. I have a cut. That's tragedy. And of course, what if I have a paper cut? Because we all know the worst kind of cut is a paper cut. I need a smart bandage.
Smart bandage for smart man.
I need a smart bandage before, which goes, don't handle that notebook. It has paper.
We'll just have to wrap you in those bandages.
And it's funny because before we started our podcast in the studio we're in, another person who uses this room pointed, he left papers over there. Don't touch the paper.
Dangerous. I'm not touching anything.
Oh, no, not with the threat of a cut.
Not afraid of him. Afraid of the paper cuts.
Well, I'm afraid of him when he comes with those double ninja swords he likes to play with, but that's another story for another day.
And I'm also afraid we're out of time, Mark.
Then, why don't you say goodbye to the nice folks out there?
Well, I'd like to thank her for coming and joining this exciting episode, spending time with me, dealing with Dr. Mark Hertzberg, as well as everyone's input, positive feedback. Feel free to email us at podcast@KINETIQ, KINETIQ, life, LIFE.com.
Hey, that's KineticLife.com.
That is. And, send us anything you want us to, topics you want to talk about, things you want us to expand on, comments, criticisms, insults to Mark.
Hey, isn't KINETIQ the people who make Renew that sponsors us?
It is.
Hey, that's good stuff. And by the way, I think I should point out to everyone that Michael said he had to deal with me. Now you should know that part of the lifestyle of success, it's not how you deal with people. It's the idea that you shouldn't be worried about how you'll deal with people. They have to deal with you.
That's very true, Mark. I mean, we love you all the same for it.
I am being dealt with. Is it time for me to say goodbye to all the nice and the not nice people out there?
Not yet. I want to thank everyone for all the emails, the positive feedback, comments. Keep them coming. Feel free to, provide any additional comments both from email or directly on our streaming channels. Follow, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your neighbor, tell anyone that'll listen. Let's get this out there to everyone else. So we enjoy doing this. And also, please leave some positive reviews for us. That really helps us.
Are we supposed to say something now about it, the mathematics of being helped by this stuff? It really helps the algorithm or something like that?
Something like that.
Hey, that's what everybody else says. They have this monster algorithm they're all... They
try to feed.
And they all want to be nice to the algorithm.
Smash the like button to feed the algorithm.
So the algorithm, we are one with the algorithm.
This ethereal thing we call the algorithm.
Okay, so...
On that note, until next time, I'm your host, Mike Shalavutis.
I'm the real Mark Hertzberg, saying goodbye and good... I don't know what time of day it is while you're listening to the podcast. Good whatever.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
We're sponsored by KINETIQ Renew. KINETIQ Renew is a 4-round shot of all natural ingredients that deliver some amazing benefits, like improved mental clarity, long and short-term focus, and improved memory and cognition. Plus, KINETIQ Renew improves mood with the added benefits of anti-stress and anti-anxiety. KINETIQ Renew provides antioxidants and neuroprotection. And all this with no caffeine, no artificial flavors, sweeteners, or colors, and it's only 5 calories. KINETIQ Renew is what you drink to arrive focused and alert, and you won't get that caffeine or sugar crash. Visit KineticLife.com today. That's KINETIQ Life.com and try it. Use promo code POD1 for a special 30% discount. That's POD and the number 1, POD1 for a limited time 30% discount. KineticLife.com. KINETIQ Life.com. Do it now. Give it a try. You're going to love it. The 30% off is for a limited time, so log on now for the savings. Thank you for listening to the KINETIQ Life podcast. Catch a new show every other Thursday. You'll find us everywhere you can listen to a podcast. And remember, be safe, have fun, and go for your dreams. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered professional advice. All comments, jokes, views, and ideas expressed are those of the hosts or guests and do not represent any company or organizations with whom they may be affiliated. Always make sure to consult your own physician before starting any new diet, supplement, or exercise routine. Oh, and there's one more thing. If you're working on something that you really care about, you don't have to be pushed. The vision pulls you. Steve Jobs.